Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior, and today I'm going to be talking about the top 5 Inhuman characters in Mortal Kombat. I figured this would be a nice showcase for many of the characters in Outworld that do not quite get enough exposure here. Now each person on this list is a representation of their race, and most likely the most well known of it. For the Oshtecs it would be Shao Kahn, and for the Kaitins it would be Devora, as they are the only ones in the game, but they are the most well known. Now for this list, each character has to be a somewhat pure breed, so they can't have any kind of spliced DNA with anything and have to be originally somewhat pure. I'll also be taking into account their sheer power to determine their rankings on this list here. Now characters on this list here will mostly be villains. Anyone who's flip-flop between sides will feature on here, but for the most part consider this a showcase for some of the stronger villains within the series. I'll also be taking into account their history and how they've grown throughout the game. So might I also say that this is my own personal top 5s here. I've set my own criteria and I'll do my best to try and follow it, which means that you don't necessarily have to agree with every single choice here, and if that is the case, please put down in the comments below. It'd be very interesting to know. Now on that note, let's actually get on to the video. Now at number 5 we have Baraka, representing the Tarkatan. Baraka is probably the most intelligent of his race, which is in fact saying something, but most of them are probably as intelligent as a 5-year-old baby. That's me being quite generous to them. Now although Baraka hasn't ever really played a significant role in the story modes of Mortal Kombat, he's certainly been able to capitalize in the looks department, not because he's attractive or handsome, but he's downright terrifying. The guy has razor sharp teeth and extendable claws in his own arm. Reminds me of a very bad movie, which we will not speak of, but damn it, I thought about it. But beyond his appearance, the Tarkatan certainly suffers from the henchman syndrome. Baraka really suffered from not actually being able to break away and become his own character, and unfortunately he started to blend in more of his henchmen instead of becoming his own character, especially when you have someone to compete with like Melina. Now a fun little backstory about Tarkatans: they are a mix between humans and demons, which does explain a lot about their appearance and quite often their taste for flesh, blood and destruction. Now at number 4 we have Reptile, representing the Zartarian, and is in fact one of the only few ones remaining. Now here's a quick backstory about their race. The Zartarian race are fairly peaceful people, but after a war broke out between Raiden and Shinnok, their race was unfortunately forced to leave their home world, and sadly due to the appearance of one Shao Kahn, the race was driven to near extinction unless they were to bend to Shao Kahn's rule. Reptile was one of the only few wise people to do so. Now Reptile has in fact been a fan favourite for a very long time, and you can vastly see why. If you take into account his appearance, from game to game he's slowly de-evolved into kind of a dinosaur, and it's really nice, as in each game you are always guaranteed to get a new look for the character. Now the one sad thing about Reptile is that unfortunately he suffers from the henchman syndrome much like Baraka, but it does make sense for Reptile more so than Baraka. You see, whilst he was under Shao Kahn's rule, he was in fact brainwashed and needed to constantly have a master, and as he continued to somewhat de-evolve, he needed someone to kind of cater to him, and as many of you do know, this would lead to him becoming the Dragon King, which is why he's not at number 5 here. He did have a somewhat purpose in the story, but Reptile on his own doesn't seem to be quite a strong character, because he constantly does need someone to hold his hand, which is unfortunate, and it kind of does drag him down a bit. Now if they were to tweak up the character and have him somewhat become very independent, then I could most likely see him being higher in this list, but until then he must sadly remain at number 4. Now at number 3 we have Goro, representing the Shogun. We've had about 3 Shogun within the series, but none of them quite compare to Prince Goro, being of royal blood and being the first sub-boss in the game that really kind of showed how outrageous it was. Goro has most certainly made an impact on the series. Now the Shogun are one of the strongest races in Outworld. The Shogun rule their own kingdom, and although they are peaceful people, they are in fact not terrified to go toe-to-toe with anyone, a perfect example being the Centaurs. Now Goro has been a massive name in Mortal Kombat, defeating the great Kung Lao and being the champion of Mortal Kombat for many years. He's arguably one of Mortal Kombat's strongest characters, but unfortunately outside of this, he does falter in a few areas, character development most certainly being one. You see, being a boss character makes it extremely difficult for someone like Goro to truly be fleshed out, but he has most certainly been done justice, especially in the new timeline for Mortal Kombat. Here we get a much more villainous portrayal of Goro, and he's truly kind of fleshed out in the Mortal Kombat X comics. Although his appearances here are somewhat brief, we are certainly given more expression here than the previous timeline. We get to see his pride as he's the prince of the Shogun, and we also get to see his sorrow as he loses his father and his arms. We see the desperate measures he needs to take in order to once again become the prince that he so rightfully deserves to be. The Mortal Kombat X comics did a lot for him, more than what I think most people would actually see. In terms of character, he was really fleshed out well, and with the foreshadowing of him most likely become the next catalyst for the Dragon King, he's certainly someone you want to keep an eye on. I can't wait to see more from this character. Now at number 2 we have the Dragon King Onaga, the fabled original ruler of Outworld. Onaga is certainly one of the powerfulest characters in Mortal Kombat history, being able to live for centuries and rule Outworld with an iron fist. You see, although we don't know that much about Onaga in terms of his fighting capabilities, his sheer immense control of magic was enough to put him at an extremely high level on this list here. You see, Onaga has the ability to bring back anyone from the dead, and I mean quite literally anyone. Many of the heroes that were killed in Deadly Alliance were brought back by his sheer amount of power alone. Alongside that, he had an unstoppable army that he could constantly repair. Onaga was an extremely formidable force and an amazing tactician, being able to manipulate Sejenko for an extremely long amount of time so that he could create a plot to become the one being. He's cunning, powerful and ruthless, and it goes to show how powerful the original ruler of Outworld truly is. But in saying that, Onaga suffered from a flaw that isn't quite his fault. He appeared much later on in the series and wasn't really given the ability to flesh himself out properly. Plus, his defeat in Deception is kind of corny, considering it's a oh give me your power, I will beat him kind of scenario. We aren't really able to see his power cap, if you can kind of understand, and unfortunately this limits him on what I can actually do with him on this list here. But he is a fantastic villain, and I really do hope to see him soon, and hopefully they build up to him and won't rush his appearance within the game. Now, as an honourable mention, I will feature Motaro here. I'm not a big fan of the character, being one of the many reasons why he's not here, but unlike the other 4 here, he suffered from a severe lack amount of character development. He was only kind of there to be an extreme nuisance in Mortal Kombat 3, and yes, he succeeded in that very well. I do not have fond memories of that. But outside of that, Motaro wasn't really given a fair shot. He was just a boss character, and that's what they've just limited him to. So unfortunately, he doesn't appear here, although he is like BS strong. Now, number 1, and this should have been fairly obvious, it's Shao Kahn, the best villain in fighting game history. There, I said it. Shao Kahn has been an amazing villain ever since his release. He's a fantastic shit talker, and he will do that while simultaneously punch you in the face until you have no face. We've had a fantastic display of in fact how powerful he is, as well as how versed he is in black magic, being in fact the teacher of Shang Tsung. He's shown throughout the games that he is very ruthless, being responsible for actually poisoning Onaga, and his endless pursuit for taking over other realms. He's enslaved the Zartarians, probably the Tarkatans, and many of the races you do see work for him. They don't work for him out of choice. He most likely comes to your world and just takes it over. Now, in terms of character growth, Shao Kahn does stay relatively the same, as he's a very ruthless conqueror type of character. Now, he has an amazing repertoire with his ruthless and cunning personality, and is one of the characters I would say that benefited Mortal Kombat in achieving the heights it did. We've never really had a villain of Shao Kahn's caliber, and I don't think we ever kind of will again. Anyway, that's kind of been it for my top 5s list, guys. Please let me know in the comments below what other top 5s would you like to see Mortal Kombat related. I'm actually kind of struggling to put ideas together here, so all ideas are welcome. Now, we in fact have an Injustice video tomorrow, followed by another Mortal Kombat video, and I actually haven't decided what I want to talk about yet, so go crazy in the comments below, as I'm always more than happy to make a video about it. Now, if possible, guys, let's try getting this video to roughly about 500 likes. It's a great way of supporting my channel, as YouTube's algorithm system is completely broken at this point. Now, as always, guys, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I will see you all next time.